Hey y'all, Advocacy Manager Reagan Stone here. Just this month, our team has exposed the truth behind redistricting, visited and humanized with the people and children held at migrant detention centers, and brought 3 of the 6 statewide Democratic office candidates right to you. But this work, it just isn't free. And just as Trump's agenda risks silencing the truth we tell at Progress Texas, we've hit a 3-month window of funding our year-round progressive campaign. So if you enjoy a perspective that has values and tells the insider view, we need your help. If only 10% of our audience signed up at $10 a month, we'd be covered through the 2026 midterms. And I'd like to get back to helping hard-working Texans have their voices heard at the state capitol. So please consider a gift right now at progresstexas.org/donate. You'll be glad you did, and thank you.
All across America, over the last 6+ months, we've seen corporations bend the knee, law firms have bent the knee, colleges and universities have bent the knee to Donald Trump. Texas Democrats will not bend the knee. They will stand up for the people that they are privileged to represent.
U.S. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York from the Texas State Capitol in Austin yesterday. It's Friday, August 1st, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. It's looking like a mad scene is in store today at that same Texas State Capitol as the last in a series of public hearings on the Republican plan to deliver to Donald Trump 5 additional red seats in the U.S. House of Representatives via a mid-decade redistricting push starts this morning at 10, and hundreds, if not thousands, of concerned Texans are expected to converge there today, many from long distances across the state. The purpose of these hearings, ostensibly, is for our lawmakers in their fairness and their wisdom to take into account the wishes of those they represent in those hallowed halls in Austin, to uphold the will of the people of Texas above all else. The overwhelming sentiment from the public at all of these hearings held statewide has been that the people of Texas do not wish to surrender their representation in Washington, D.C. to Donald Trump. And you can bet the farm that sentiment will be even more intense today, considering that the actual maps dramatically reddening that representation are out for all to behold. The Select Committee on Congressional Redistricting will start the proceedings at 10 this morning, and James at KHOU-TV in Houston talked to the oft-quoted Dr. Brandon Rottinghouse of U of H's Political Science Department. He shrugs and says, quote, "The real overriding pressure here is political, as it always is. You have the Trump administration saying we'd love to squeeze a few more seats out of this, and Republican lawmakers saying we'll give it a shot," unquote. Boiling down what's likely to happen, all of this public outrage, given the bizarre and seemingly blind loyalty that Donald Trump commands from his party, seems likely to be for naught. We're sending Progress Texas Digital Associate Haley Smith into the fray down there today. Look for updates. Rudy Koski at Fox 7 TV in Austin says Congressman Jeffries from the top there was in Austin to encourage Texas Dems to do whatever they can to stop this redistricting plan, but notably stopped short of talking about a quorum break when pressed about it by reporters, despite extensive preparations for such a move, including the shoring up of Democratic donor support to help pay the fines that would be charged to House members with the guts to leave. Part of that national plan, as we've talked about extensively, moves made by Democratic governors across the country and other states to counteract this carving up of Texas for Republican appetites. KCRA-TV and the Californian capital of Sacramento has been all over that. They say Governor Gavin Newsom has confirmed he's working on a possible special election of that state's voters for the first Tuesday of November, as he and state lawmakers look to redraw congressional maps to send more Democrats to D.C. And here's an interesting compare and contrast that you may have missed. While the Texas GOP map would seek to raise their advantage in the U.S. House to 30 red seats versus 8 Dems, a similar shift in California, which Governor Newsom appears to think possible, would bring their balance to a much wider 48 Democrats to only 4 Republicans. We direct your attention to an op-ed in the New York Times by Michelle Cottle that gives a solid snapshot of this pivotal moment in Austin, what it means not only for the Lone Star State, but for that aforementioned National Democratic Party. She writes, quote, "Texas's redistricting drama has emerged as a test case of sorts, a clear, well-defined opportunity for Democrats to prove they have the stomach for the fight. Could this issue be an inflection point for how the party confronts an aspiring autocrat who thinks rules are for suckers? Could the Texas mess be the thing that finally drives Democrats off the high road, unquote? The eyes of progressive Americans across the country are on Texas right now, and the next moves of the Texas Democratic Party, it's no exaggeration, will have global implications. Zeroing in on Kerr County and yesterday's hearing in Kerrville on the official response or lack thereof to the July 4th flood, Emily Foxhall of the Texas Tribune highlights the incredulous fact that the top two emergency officials in that county, Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly and Kerr County Emergency Management Coordinator William Thomas, quite literally slept through it. Kelly drew the particular ire of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick at that hearing. He admonished the county judge for not making contact with him throughout that first day of the disaster, while Democratic Representative Ann Johnson asked, quote, the three guys in Kerr County who were responsible for sounding the alarm were effectively unavailable. Am I hearing that right? Unquote. And she was. That third guy being Larry Letha, the county sheriff, who also slept soundly as his county flooded. In short, the Republican leadership of Kerr County blew it completely in their constituents' most desperate hour. It appears that they didn't even follow their own disaster plan. Terry Langford at the Texas Tribune says a 5-year-old emergency management plan shows that those local officials were operating from a generic disaster response template, which is supposed to serve as a playbook of sorts, in particular, who's in charge when disaster strikes. Key points in the plan that seem to have been disregarded included calls for evacuation training ahead of a disaster and a simple 4-step guide on when to increase monitoring of weather, triggered by basic flood watches. One of those came in the early afternoon of July 3rd when increased situation monitoring, reconnaissance of known flood-prone spots, the deploying of warning signs, and more were all called for by the playbook, but did not happen. When the flash flood warning came about 12 hours later at 1:14 a.m. on July 4th, the response should have already been primed to begin warning people to get away from the river, but that didn't happen either. The key people elected to oversee the safety of the people of Kerr County when the plan called for them to be in high gear were asleep. As simple and as stunning as that sounds. One of the residual issues after the flood, weirdly enough, is the presence and impact of social media influencers who rolled in to take advantage of the situation. Lauren Larson at Texas Monthly went on CBS News to talk about the problematic moment when journalism and online influence collide. Marked in the case of the July 4th flood of the false story that 2 young girls had been found alive high up in a tree, a story I myself wanted so badly to believe that I did for a few hours, as a great many of us did, only to be crushed upon learning that it wasn't true. Larson says the big difference between influencers and journalists is editorial scrutiny and ethical reporting. Journalists want the facts, influencers want the likes. At Progress Texas, we have an entire team who keep track on each other's work, and an eagle-eyed executive director in Kathleen Thompson, who comes from a broadcast news background. You may know that I come from a long broadcast media background in Texas as well. At Progress Texas, we're committed to getting the facts right, relying on trusted sources, as well as expressing our progressive values and giving you a way to explore yours and to put them into action. Austin listeners and soccer fans, take note. We're planning a live podcast taping for Monday, September 15th with All-Star Austin goalkeeper Brad Stuver, co-hosted by Landon Cottam of the Austin FC podcast Moon Tower Soccer. We'll be talking about Brad's progressive activism along with his wife Ashley, both of their ventures into political advocacy, including their own Brad and Ashley Stuver Foundation, and the courage that it takes for public figures to stand up for what's right these days. This is happening at Hop Squad Brewery in North Austin near the stadium. Sponsorship opportunities are up right now, and individual tickets will be on sale soon at progresstexas.org. Once again, our Brad Stuver podcast taping happens at Hop Squad in Austin on Monday, September 15th. Mark your calendar, and we hope to see you there. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine at a moment when funding for public and independent media outlets and media figures who don't bow down to MAGA is under full attack. Progress Texas relies on listener support to keep going, but we've lately come within 3 months of running out of funding. We are thus in the middle of our summer vacation membership drive. If just 10% of our audience signs up for a monthly donation of at least $10, we'd be good for the next year. We'd like to avoid going on a permanent vacation. We could use your support now as a monthly contributor. Please join the fight against authoritarianism and for progress in Texas right now at ProgressTexas.org. We want to thank 3 of our brand new monthly supporters, Jessica Alay, Danette Mann, and Valerie Ordonez. We appreciate all of you very, very much. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Friday, August 1st, 2025. Links to all of these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a terrific day and a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.